Most men over 40 have been told the wrong thing about blood flow. They've been told it's just about the heart, just about blood pressure numbers on a chart. But what if the real issue is happening somewhere else entirely, in the smallest vessels in your body, in places most doctors never check, in a process that starts quietly, long before any symptom becomes obvious? That's what this video is about. And if you're a man over 40 who's noticed changes in your energy, your drive, or your confidence, even small ones, what you're about to hear might completely reframe how you think about your own body. Stay with me, because in a moment, you'll understand why blood flow is not just a heart issue, it's a whole body issue. And one simple habit may influence this more than most men realize. Let's start with something real. Think about a Tuesday evening. You're not sick, you're not exhausted from anything unusual, but there's this low-level fatigue that just sits with you. You get home and you feel flat, not depressed, just flat. The energy you used to have after work, that second wind, it's not really there anymore. Your partner wants to connect, maybe just talk, maybe more. And somewhere inside you, there's this hesitation. Not a decision, just a hesitation. Like your body is slightly behind where your mind wants to be. You don't say anything about it. Most men don't. You just move through the moment and hope it passes. But it doesn't fully pass, does it? It just becomes the new normal. And that's the part that quietly starts to wear on you. Not the moment itself, but the pattern. The slow accumulation of moments where you felt like a slightly dimmer version of yourself. That feeling is real, and it's more common than most men want to admit. Now here's where things start to get interesting. Because what most men assume is happening, that it's just age, just stress, just life, may only be part of the picture. Researchers studying male cardiovascular health have been paying close attention to something that doesn't show up on a standard checkup. It's not your cholesterol. It's not your resting heart rate. It's the quality of blood flow in the smaller vessels. The ones that reach muscle tissue, organs, and areas of the body that depend on precise, consistent circulation. These vessels are lined with a thin layer of cells called the endothelium. And the endothelium does something remarkable. When it's healthy, it produces a molecule called nitric oxide. You may have heard of it, but here's what most men never realize. Nitric oxide is not just a gym supplement ingredient. It's a signaling molecule your body uses to relax and widen blood vessels, naturally, on demand. It's one of the primary ways your vascular system regulates itself. And after 40, something starts to shift in how well your body produces it. This isn't a dramatic collapse. It doesn't happen overnight. What researchers suggest is more of a gradual change. The endothelial cells become slightly less responsive. The signals get quieter, and over time, over months, sometimes years, the vessels don't expand as easily as they used to. Think of it like a garden hose that's slowly losing pressure. The water is still flowing, the pump is still working, but the delivery isn't what it was. And when delivery drops even slightly in certain areas of the body, the effects are subtle at first. A little less stamina, a little less responsiveness, a little more time needed for things that used to happen naturally. Men often blame themselves. They think it's mental. They think they just need to push harder or stress less. But the biology suggests something different, that what they're experiencing has a physical basis that most standard health conversations don't address directly. And this is where things become really important to understand, because nitric oxide doesn't just affect one system. It's involved in how your muscles receive oxygen during exertion. It influences how your blood pressure self-regulates throughout the day. It plays a role in how quickly your body recovers after physical activity. And yes, it's deeply connected to sexual performance. Not in the way most supplement ads frame it, not as some on-off switch, but as a foundational part of the vascular process that makes blood flow possible in the first place. When a man notices that his performance has changed, that things feel less reliable, less consistent, the endothelial pathway is often part of what's shifted. And the interesting thing is that this shift doesn't have to be permanent. The endothelium is responsive tissue. It reacts to inputs, what you eat, how you move, what you give your body consistently. All of these things influence how well that lining functions. That's the part of this story that most men never get to hear. But here's something most men completely overlook, and this might be the most important thing in this entire video. The foods that support nitric oxide production, the ones that actually give your body the raw materials to make it, are foods that most American men simply don't eat enough of. Leafy greens, beets, foods rich in specific amino acids. The modern diet, with its convenience-first approach, has quietly stripped out many of the inputs your vascular system depends on. And here's the compounding factor. After 40, the enzyme your body uses to convert certain amino acids into nitric oxide, an enzyme called ENOS, begins to work less efficiently. So you're not just getting fewer raw materials, you're also converting them less effectively. It's a double reduction. And that double reduction is happening quietly, consistently in the background of everyday life, while you're working, while you're sleeping, while you're going through the routine that feels normal but is slowly shifting underneath. Now let's talk about what researchers have been observing in this space. Because the science here is more developed than most people realize, there's a compound called L-citrulline. It's an amino acid found naturally in watermelon, in small amounts. But here's what makes it interesting. When you consume L-citrulline, your kidneys convert it into L-arginine. And L-arginine is the direct precursor to nitric oxide. The reason L-citrulline matters more than just taking L-arginine directly is a matter of absorption. L-arginine, when taken orally in large amounts, gets significantly broken down in the digestive tract before it reaches the bloodstream. L-citrulline bypasses that bottleneck. It arrives more intact. And once it's converted to L-arginine in the kidneys, it becomes available for nitric oxide synthesis in the endothelial cells. Studies looking at this pathway have noted measurable differences in blood vessel dilation and circulation quality when L-citrulline is consistently present in the system. Not dramatic, sudden changes. Gradual, supportive improvements in how vessels respond. And remember that molecule we mentioned earlier, nitric oxide. This is exactly where it gets made, inside those endothelial cells, using L-arginine as the building block, with ENOS as the enzyme that drives the process. When all three elements are present and functioning, the precursor, the enzyme, the responsive tissue, the system works the way it was designed to. The problem for men over 40 is that at least two of those three elements are often compromised. The precursor supply is lower because of diet, the enzyme efficiency is reduced because of age, and the tissue responsiveness, the endothelium itself, is often affected by years of oxidative stress, inflammation, and the cumulative effects of how modern men live. This isn't about blame, it's about understanding, because once you understand the mechanism, you can actually do something about it. And that's where the conversation shifts from observation to action. There's another compound worth understanding here. Panax ginseng, sometimes called Korean red ginseng, has been studied for decades in the context of male vitality and vascular function. What researchers have observed is that certain active compounds in ginseng, called ginsenosides, appear to interact with the same endothelial pathway we've been discussing. They seem to support ENOS activity, the enzyme that converts L-arginine into nitric oxide. They also appear to have antioxidant properties that help protect the endothelial lining from the kind of oxidative damage that accumulates over time. In several studies focused specifically on men over 40, consistent use of Panax ginseng extract was associated with improvements in energy levels, sexual function, and overall sense of vitality. Again, not dramatic, overnight changes. Gradual, cumulative support for systems that have been quietly underperforming. The kind of improvement that men often describe not as a sudden shift, but as a slow return to feeling like themselves again. Here's something that ties all of this together in a way most health conversations miss. The endothelial system, this lining of blood vessels that produces nitric oxide, isn't just a passive structure. It's a communication network. It responds to signals from your nervous system, your hormones, your immune system, and yes, your nutritional status. When it's well supported, it sends signals that keep your vascular system flexible and responsive. When it's undersupported, when it's dealing with chronic low-grade inflammation, oxidative stress, and nutritional gaps, it sends different signals, signals that lead to gradual stiffening, gradual reduction in responsiveness, and a slow narrowing of what feels possible in your body. The reason this matters for men specifically is that the areas of the body most dependent on precise, on-demand blood flow, the ones that reveal early vascular changes before heart disease or diabetes become visible, are often the areas men first notice changing in their 40s and 50s. This is the body's early warning system, and most men have never been told to read it that way. So what does support actually look like? Not a cure, not a guarantee, but genuine, consistent physiological support for a system that most men are running on default. It starts with the inputs, the raw materials. L-citrulline, as we discussed, gives the body what it needs to build nitric oxide without the absorption limitations of L-arginine alone. Consistent, meaningful amounts, not trace amounts from a slice of watermelon, but concentrated, bioavailable forms that the body can actually use. Panax ginseng, for its supportive effect on the conversion enzyme and its protective antioxidant properties. And beyond those, there are other compounds that researchers have observed in this context, things like pine bark extract, which has been studied for its effects on endothelial function and blood vessel flexibility, or zinc, which plays a supporting role in testosterone production and overall male hormonal balance, or vitamin D, which most men in northern latitudes are chronically low in, and which has documented connections to vascular health and energy regulation. The reason supplementation matters here, and this is important to understand, isn't that food doesn't work. Food absolutely works. But the reality of modern life is that most men are not consistently eating the volumes of leafy greens, beets, and amino acid-rich whole foods needed to meaningfully move the needle on nitric oxide production. And as we discussed, the absorption and conversion challenges after 40 mean that even men who do eat reasonably well may not be getting the endothelial support their body needs. Supplementation in this context isn't a shortcut. It's a bridge, a way to fill the gaps that diet alone, for most real men living real lives, simply leaves open. The key word is consistency. One dose doesn't change much, but a consistent daily input over weeks and months can gradually shift how the endothelium functions, how vessels respond, how energy feels, how confidence returns in quiet, meaningful ways. And let's come back to that man we described at the beginning. The one on a Tuesday evening, feeling flat, feeling that low-grade hesitation. Because here's what that man often doesn't know. That what he's experiencing is not just psychological. It's not just attitude. It's not just needing to push through. There's a physiological conversation happening in his body that he's never been introduced to. And the moment he understands that conversation, the moment he sees the mechanism, something shifts. Not because the problem is solved instantly, but because he now has a direction, a framework, something he can actually act on. That shift from helplessness to agency is in many ways more powerful than any single supplement or habit. It's the beginning of a man taking his health seriously in a way that's informed, not desperate, consistent, not reactive. And that's the kind of vitality that holds. Not the kind that spikes and fades, the kind that builds quietly, day by day, into something that feels like a return to himself. For men who want to explore a natural way to support this process, to give their endothelial system the consistent nutritional inputs that research suggests matter, there's a resource available in the description below. It's not a magic solution. It's not a promise. It's information about a formulation designed specifically with these pathways in mind: the citrulline conversion pathway, the ginseng-eno-S connection, the vascular support compounds that are difficult to get consistently from diet alone. Take a look when you're ready. There's no pressure, just information, available when you want it. What I want you to take away from this video is simple. Your body is not broken. It is responding to inputs. Some of those inputs have changed as you've gotten older. Your diet, your absorption, your enzyme efficiency, your accumulated oxidative load. But the system itself is still there. The endothelium is still responsive. The nitric oxide pathway is still functional. It just needs support. Consistent, intelligent, physiologically informed support. And the man who understands that, who stops blaming himself and starts working with his biology, is the man who gets to feel the difference. More energy in the afternoon, more confidence in intimate moments, more of that feeling of being present, capable, and in control of his own life. That's not a fantasy. That's what happens when the right inputs meet a responsive system over time. If you found this helpful and this video gave you a new perspective on your health, subscribe for daily content on men's vitality after 40. Drop a comment below. What's the one change you're going to make first? And if you know a man who needs to hear this, share this video with him.